Welcome to Cost Saver Conversations. I'm Angela, and I ask the practical questions so you can quickly understand what matters. Today, I'm joined by Assad.
Hi, Angela. We are unpacking UK Salary Reality Checker, Am I Underpaid? ASHE 2025, Common Mistakes, Hidden Costs, and Better Choices today, and tying it back to the wider cost saver ecosystem, including tools like Salary Reality Checker and Local Salary Reality Checker, so you can turn insights into action quickly.
Just a heads up before we dive in, we are your synthetic hosts. We are great with numbers, but as AI, we can sometimes be confidently wrong. Think of us as the digital versions of your most knowledgeable, slightly caffeinated friends.
Exactly. Treat this chat as a smart estimate only, not as professional financial guidance. Always check important details with official sources or a qualified expert before making any big decisions.
So, Assad, am I underpaid? Honestly, it's one of those questions that it nags at people, doesn't it? Especially right now with the cost of everything going up.
Oh, completely. And the thing is, it seems like it should be simple, right? Like you should just be able to look it up. But it's way more complex than most people realize.
Right, because you see these headlines about the average UK salary and you think, well, that's either me or it's not. But it's never that clean, is it?
No, not even close. I mean, think about it. A Manchester graphic designer and a London corporate lawyer, they're both in the UK, they both have salaries, but comparing them is just, it's meaningless.
Totally meaningless.
And that's effectively what happens when people Google UK average salary and then panic. That single national median figure, it tells you almost nothing about your personal situation. You could be a care worker in Hull or an investment analyst in Canary Wharf, and you're both contributing to that same number. It just flattens everything.
And presumably, people make actual decisions based on that flattened number?
They do, and it can cost them thousands. Because look, salary is shaped by so many things. Your occupation, your region, experience, the sector you're in, the size of your employer, even the supply of people who can do your specific job. You can't collapse all of that into one figure and expect it to mean anything.
So, how do we get a clearer picture then? Because just Googling it is clearly, well, it's a trap.
Yeah, so the good news is the UK actually has one of the best public pay data sets in the world. It's called the ONS Annual Survey of Hours and Earnings, ASH, and it's genuinely fantastic for this.
I've heard of Ash, but I didn't realize it was like the gold standard. What makes it so good?
So it's built from a 1% sample of employee jobs, drawn directly from HMRC's payee records. So we're talking about a massive, statistically robust data set. And crucially, it doesn't have that self-reporting bias you get from sites like Glassdoor, where people might, exaggerate a bit depending on their mood.
Huh, fair enough. So it's not just people saying what they think they earn.
Exactly. The government uses it, trade unions use it, serious researchers use it. It's the real deal. The problem is, and this is the frustrating part, most people use it badly.
How so?
Well, they compare themselves to the wrong group, or they forget that the data is always running behind. ASH data is collected each April and published in the autumn. So ASH 2025, that lands late 2025, but the actual pay snapshot is from April 2025.
Ah, so there's a lag.
Right. So if you're checking your salary in, say, spring 2026 against ASH 2025 data, you need to mentally add roughly a year of wage inflation. The ONS publishes monthly average weekly earnings figures that help with that. But if you don't do that adjustment, you're comparing yourself to old numbers.
And getting the comparison wrong. I mean, what's the actual cost of that?
It's significant. You could either accept being underpaid by 3 to 8,000 pounds a year, or you could walk into a pay conversation with unrealistic numbers and just damage your credibility. Neither is great. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. So let's talk about the specific mistakes. What are the big ones you see over and over?
Okay, so the national average thing we've covered. But the next one is, and this catches so many people, ignoring the full-time versus part-time distinction. Asia publishes separate figures for both, and if you mix them up,
You'll always feel underpaid if you're part-time, right?
exactly. Part-time medians look lower because of fewer hours, not necessarily lower hourly rates. So if you work, say, 30 hours a week and compare yourself to full-time medians, you're going to feel shortchanged even when your hourly rate is perfectly competitive. You need to compare hourly rates or scale annual figures pro rata. It's a small step, but it completely changes the answer.
Okay, what else?
This one's huge, forgetting about total reward, like not just basic pay. Two jobs, both paying £40,000 basic, can have wildly different real value. One might include a 10% employer pension contribution, private medical, life cover, a bonus scheme, 30 days of leave. The other might offer 3% pension and statutory 28 days. And that gap, that's easily £4,000 to £6,000 in actual value.
Oh, that's actually, yeah, I know we all focus on the headline number, but when you put it like that,
Right? And there's a great example of this. There was a project manager from Leeds, Priya, who turned down a £46,000 offer for a £43,000 one.
wait, really? Why would you?
Because the lower paid role included a 9% employer pension, a £2,500 annual bonus, and 30 days of leave. Once she priced everything up, the lower job was worth roughly £4,700 more per year, and she got an extra 2 days off a month.
That's wild. So the £3,000 pay cut was actually a nearly £5,000 gain?
Exactly. And I think the checklist people should run through is, employer pension contribution above the 3% minimum, annual leave above statutory, bonus scheme structure, private medical, life insurance, season ticket loans, flexible working, training budgets, enhanced sick pay and parental leave, share schemes. All of that is real money.
I hadn't thought about it like that. Like all those things stacking up together.
They really do stack up. A competitive, basic salary with a stingy benefits package can leave you thousands worse off than a lower headline number with a generous one. Always price the whole package.
Okay, so we've got the right data, we've factored in benefits, but there's another layer, right? Hidden costs eating into take-home pay?
Yeah, the stealthy ones. So even if your gross salary is genuinely competitive, your real disposable income can still feel tight. And the biggest one right now is fiscal drag.
Fiscal drag. Explain that for me.
So income tax thresholds in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland have been frozen for several years now, which means as your salary rises with inflation, more of it falls into higher tax bands, even though your real purchasing power hasn't actually improved. You're getting a pay rise that just gets eaten by tax.
Right, so you're technically earning more, but keeping the same or less.
Pretty much. And the real pinch points are the 40% higher rate threshold, and this one catches a lot of people, the £100,000 personal allowance taper.
What happens at 100,000?
So if you cross £100,000, your personal allowance gets withdrawn at 50 pence for every pound over that, which creates an effective marginal tax rate of 60% on the next 25,140 pounds. Loads of mid-senior professionals get caught here without even realizing. You can lose up to 15,000 pounds in stealth tax across that band.
Oh, I didn't. 15,000. That's a lot of money to just sort of disappear.
It is. It really is. And then on top of that, you've got the regional cost differences. A £45,000 salary in Newcastle, that's a comfortable life. Same salary in Brighton, you might be looking at a flat share and no savings. Council tax varies wildly between local authorities, too, and it's one of the most overlooked costs when people compare job offers in different regions.
And commuting, presumably.
Oh God, commuting. Rail season tickets for a lot of UK commuter routes now exceed £5,000 a year post-tax. And if you're a higher rate taxpayer, that's the equivalent of roughly £8,000 of gross salary. Gone. Just gone. Before you've bought a sandwich.
That's sobering. And childcare?
Childcare can wipe out entire second incomes, especially before the expanded funded hours kick in. And then there's lifestyle inflation, the tendency for spending to just expand to match your income. A pay rise that vanishes into bigger subscriptions and, fancier coffee and pricier holidays.
Isn't really a pay rise.
Exactly.
So the tip I always give is, when evaluating a job offer or pay rise, work out the net change in disposable income after tax, pension, commuting, housing, childcare. The number is often half what the headline suggests, and occasionally it's actually negative.
Wow, okay. So let's say someone's done all of this. They've used AISH properly, they've looked at the full package, they've factored in hidden costs. What do they actually do with that information?
Right, so it depends where you land. If you're below the 25th percentile for your role in region, that's genuinely underpaid territory. Gather your evidence, AISH figures, job adverts for similar roles in your area, and request a structured conversation with your manager. Frame it around market alignment, not personal grievance. Managers tend to respect that.
And if they say no?
If there's no clear path to alignment within 6 to 12 months, honestly, start looking externally. The biggest pay rises in the UK consistently come from changing jobs, not internal increments. The gap can be 15 to 25%, especially in skilled professions.
15 to 25%. That's substantial.
It really is. Now, if you're around the median, you're paid fairly for your role. The question then becomes, do you want to push higher? And the levers are different. Specialization, certifications, moving into higher paying subsectors. Those shift you up the percentile distribution.
And geography plays into this too, right?
Big time. If you're remote capable, working for a London headquartered employer while living somewhere cheaper can be a really powerful arbitrage. Just be aware that some employers are quietly cutting London weighting for remote staff, so keep your ear to the ground on that.
And if you're above the 75th percentile, you're golden, right?
Well done, but don't get complacent because high percentiles attract scrutiny and redundancy rounds. Being expensive without being irreplaceable is actually a vulnerable position. Focus on demonstrable impact, scarce skills, diversifying income sources where you can.
Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of it as a risk.
Yeah, and this is also the stage where tax planning starts to matter more than just chasing a bigger gross number. Salary sacrifice into pensions, electric vehicle schemes, structured bonus arrangements, these can deliver more value than a flat pay rise. Like a 5% pay rise that pushes you into that 60% effective tax band might actually deliver less take-home than a 3% rise plus a 2% employer pension boost.
So the structure matters as much as the headline.
As much, if not more. And I think people forget that. Big life events completely reset the calculation too. Buying a house, having children, getting married, all of those shift the goalposts. Your salary reality check should happen at those moments, not just at annual review time.
So when should people actually be doing this? Like, is there a best time?
There are a few key moments. Annual pay round, obviously, receiving a job offer, considering a regional move or going remote, returning to work after parental leave, switching between employee and contractor, approaching a tax threshold like 50,000 to 70 or 100,000, and negotiating a promotion. Any of those, that's when you pull out the data and do the work.
And I imagine people worry about, will asking about pay damage my relationship with my manager?
Yeah, that's a really common fear. And honestly, not if you frame it around market data rather than personal grievance. Managers generally respect evidence-based conversations. You're not saying, I deserve more because I feel undervalued. You're saying, here's what the ASH data shows for this role in this region, and here's where I sit. That's a very different conversation.
That's actually reassuring. What if you can't find an exact match for your role in OSH?
Good question. Use the closest SOC code you can find and adjust mentally. Or look at two related codes and kind of triangulate between them. It won't be perfect, but it gets you in the right ballpark, which is infinitely better than using a national average or a job board widget.
Okay, Assad, let's pull this together for people. If someone's listening to this on their commute right now thinking, right, what do I actually do? Give them the summary.
All right, so first, use OSH, not job boards, not national averages. Look at the median in the 25th to 75th percentile range for your specific SOC code and region. That spread matters.
A median of 35,000 with a range of 28 to 45,000 is a very different story to a median of 35 with a tight 33 to 37 range.
Right.
Second, always adjust for the publication lag. If you're looking at OSH 2025 data in 2026, add roughly a year of wage inflation. Third, price the whole package, not just the headline salary. Pension, leave, bonus, benefits, it all adds up to real money. We're talking potentially 4 to 6,000 pounds of difference.
Go on.
Fourth, factor in the hidden costs, fiscal drag, housing differences between regions, commuting, childcare. Work out your actual net disposable income, not just your gross. And fifth, be honest with yourself. Are you genuinely underpaid, or is it lifestyle inflation or comparing yourself to the wrong people? The strongest position is knowing your number, knowing the market's number, and knowing which levers close that gap.
And most annual pay rounds happen between January and April. So if you're hearing this in late autumn or winter, you've got time to prepare.
Exactly, and that preparation costs you nothing. Even in uncertain times, employers retain people they'd struggle to replace. So doing the work now, it just puts you in a stronger position whatever happens.
Brilliant. Assad, that's genuinely useful. Don't panic based on a headline, use the right data, look at the whole package, and understand where your money's actually going. Thanks for breaking it all down.
My pleasure, Angela. Honestly, this stuff matters. Getting it wrong can cost you thousands a year, but getting it right shapes every career decision for the next decade. So it's worth the 10 minutes to do it properly.
Quick side note, this guide connects with other cost-saver blogs, especially our guide on council tax bans and avoiding overpaying, this piece on MEES, energy performance certificate ratings and landlord costs, and this breakdown of UK wedding budget mistakes.
Exactly, and reading those together helps you connect the dots across your household budget, not just this one topic in isolation.
And if you want to apply this immediately, jump into tools like Salary Reality Checker and Local Salary Reality Checker right after this episode.
Primary sources used here include ONS Annual Survey of Hours and Earnings and Money Saving Expert Guide to UK Income Tax, so you can verify the data yourself and stay evidence-led.
That wraps this cost-saver conversation with Angela and Assad. If this helped, share it with someone who could put these ideas to work this week.
Your next step is simple. Try Salary Reality Checker, then read our guide on council tax bans and avoiding overpaying, and use them together to take action today.